Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneider, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato. Today we are here to talk about a few things on the Giants front. First of all, we'll talk a little bit about the recent coaching hires that we haven't had a chance to discuss on this podcast since the last time we recorded. We are going to then transition to what we believe and argue why are the Giants' biggest needs heading into this year's free agency. Free agency is still a month away at this point. Legal tampering day period starts Monday, the March 9th. So we've got a month until that, but rumors will start to circulate, I'm sure, and we'll start to get moving toward that direction. But also, before we do that, Nick, I wanted to give you a shout out and say, how was your Super Bowl? Did you enjoy the game? And I think we did this in past years.
We have.
We've decided, like, what is the biggest thing we learned from the Super Bowl from those teams and how the Giants can potentially mimic what we saw.
So I can't say enough. I can't praise Mike Macdonald enough. Like, I can't praise the Seattle Seahawks enough and John Schneider for the entire operation of drafting, the free agent acquisitions, the trades that they made, being ahead of the market, and then just building a culture of winning and rectifying the issues from last year's team that did not where the Seattle Seahawks were not nearly the team that they are right now, right? Like, trading Geno Smith was unpopular at that time. Rolling the dice on Sam Darnold was unpopular at that time. Both of them, obviously, it looks like it did pay off massively. And the acquisitions of former Giants, some of the other players, the drafting of Nick Emenumari, just to fit the style of what Mike Macdonald wants. And he's the only defensive play caller head coach right now, defensive play calling head coach. So I love that whole pendulum swing from the offense to the defense, that archetype. But I also just love the fact that the Seattle Seahawks were like, yo, we are bad. We're down bad right now in the NFC West. We got Sean McVay that we have to worry about. We have Kyle Shanahan that we have to worry about. There's another team called the Arizona Cardinals that we don't really have to worry that much about. But those other two teams, those are two of the wonderkins of offensive football right now. So we got to get a defensive guy who's going to stop them. And not only did they do that, the Seattle Seahawks beat the 49ers and the Rams in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl. So just like round of applause, like, Seattle, you deserve it. I thought the game was an excellent defensive battle. I see a lot of people being like, oh, it was so boring, but like, I like good defensive football. I do like scoring a little bit more maybe sometimes, but like watching how he coached that game and how he was able to just absolutely harass Drake May, and the offensive line was an issue obviously for Drake May too, but seeing it all come together in Seattle hoist the Lombardi trophy after what I feel like was just excellent decisions to put themselves into the position to win. I just feel like that was chef's kiss for them.
Yeah, there's a lot. I thought there was a lot to take away from this game. I want to start by saying just incredible run of drafts by John Schneider, the Seahawks GM. Also an interesting case study, because if we just, reverse back in time a few years, there was a lot of discussion about how John Schneider needed to be fired. He had some really bad.
Same with Jason Light. Same with a lot of these the one from the Rams too, the guy who sized me up in the bar the one time, Les Snead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like all those guys who this is like, hopefully, if we're talking about the blueprint for the New York Giants, Dan, like that's the hope, right? Like, we all wanted Joe Shea now, and then eventually, like, it actually like comes together with more infrastructure, and the Giants end up hoisting the Lombardi. That would be ideal.
Yeah, and just like that string of drafts in a row that the Seahawks had was really bad. They were missing on a lot of players, Nick, and he was like, they got to fire him. And what's going to happen? Russell Wilson, end of this era. What are we going to do? And then you just look at the last three draft classes, and to me, it's almost unfathomable how many hits he had in the last three classes. Rounds 1, 2, and 3, specifically, days 1 and 2. It's not just like here's the thing. You look at it like, oh, you can't miss in those rounds. We miss all the time, the Giants. Teams miss all the time in those rounds. It's really hard, even in round 1, to locate a great player. And he's not just locating a starter in these rounds, Nick, or an above-average starter. He's locating borderline all-pros with a lot of these picks, Gray Zabel, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Nick Emenumari. It goes on and on and on. And then he's hitting in second round. He's hitting in the third round. And ultimately, like, that is the definition of why the Seahawks got to where they did. They made good free agent signings as well. Cooper Kupp helps them in ways. He's a good veteran leadership. He helped develop in some ways Jackson Smith and Jigba, in my mind, just teaching him things. I mean, it's hard to argue he didn't when you think like what happened with Puka Nacua once he got under Cooper Kupp. What happened in the past? There was one other example I forgot where Cooper Kupp was, And then other great moves like Leonard Williams was a good veteran guy. DeMarcus Lawrence was a good veteran president. But ultimately, none of this happens for Seattle, Nick, and Darnold, obviously. None of this happens for Seattle, though, if he doesn't hit those drafts in the last 3 classes the way that he's hit those drafts in the last 3 classes. And ultimately, it does come down to that. It really makes me think there is a decent amount of luck involved when it comes to the draft, because you have a GM who's just missing. Then he's hitting. So it's just hard to kind of compartmentalize in my mind, like, why was he hitting then? Or why is he hitting then and he wasn't hitting now?
Think like infrastructure is a big part of this, man. Like having the right coach in there, the right coaching tree, the right individuals to get the most out of the draft selection, which I don't think the Giants have had the coaching staffs to do that. Now, hopefully the Giants can find that type of success with John Harbaugh. But even like if we're going to bring this back to the Giants, another thing that I would like to look at Seattle and be like another blueprint. We talk a lot about this, and the Giants drafted Darius Alexander last year. All well and good, right? I don't know if he's this type of guy, but the selection of Byron Murphy 2 drafts ago, Byron Murphy is an absolute, like him with Leonard Williams, that allows you to be so creative with your defensive front and allows you to play gap and a half. You could 2 gap if you really need to, but it's much more gap and a half, and then do whatever you need to do on the back end to account for these 3-by-1 sets and coverage, and also the blitz, the blitzing packages and simulated pressures that they can also cultivate, because they don't need to be super like. You have run defenders and guys who can steal gaps up front for you. 2 very good ones. The Giants do have one with Dexter Lawrence. I don't know if Alexander is going to be that type of guy, but I think Alexander definitely has a solid role with the Giants moving forward, and he can penetrate and he can be an asset as a pass rusher. But finding someone who can also defend the run, like a Byron Murphy, like a tandem of Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams did for Seattle, that's another thing that I'm hoping. And also, man, like Ernest Jones too, like he just played so right. Safeties are so quick to fit. I'm so happy for Julian Love, because I've been a Julian Love guy since the Giants drafted him out of Notre Dame, and he's just he's a Super Bowl champion. Him and Leonard Williams, so round of applause again.
Yeah, 2 former Giants who made their way with the Seattle Seahawks.
Andrew Locke
as well. Yeah, made their way with the Seattle Seahawks and really went on to greener pastures. I mean, imagine being stuck in such a losing cycle with the Giants franchise and then going over to Seattle and within a few years winning a Super Bowl. Kind of insane to think about, really. Seahawks were predicted. Seahawks had like a 8.5 over/under win total this year going into this year, Nick. I think they were like 40. They were 400, some kind of crazy odds to win the Super Bowl before the year. This was not expected to happen. I mean, namely, I'm sure that's just because people, narratively passed on, well, Darnold's the quarterback. Darnold can't win in big games. You can't do it until you do it. The same thing was said about Stafford, and then he did it. The same blah, 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 blah. Frank Gore was injury prone, and he played the last 8 years of his career. Like, it goes on and on with these narratives that just seem to be destroyed because they're stupid and because they're based on small sample sizes. And it's just something that I think about when I think about some of the things that have been, subscribed to certain players on the Giants. I think a lot of fans think this about one player or that about one player, and it's not always the case.
No, it's not, man. And just going through the drafts too. I mean, we talked a little bit about like the defensive line, like some of those defensive front players that you don't even really think too much about, like Derek Hall, right?
Yeah, Hall was great.
Yeah, Boye Mafe, like players like that who aren't household names like around the general NFL world, but who you saw them execute their role, and they're just absolute nightmares to deal with. These long arm beasts on the edge that can set the edge to really just help those linebackers and those safeties fit. And then the cornerbacks also, like they hit on the kid a couple of years ago, Reek Woolen, and then you go out and you draft Devin Witherspoon. Like you got him in the 5th round.
The real deal, yeah.
Yeah, but Reek Woolen, you got him in 2022 5th round, and remember he had an amazing rookie season.
Yeah,
and I don't think he quite.
I think he's a little overrated, but he's fine for his draft capital. He's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, he's amazing for his draft capital, and he's a I would say a slightly above average starter in the NFL from what I've seen. But like Devin Witherspoon is an absolute stud.
He's just a stud. Yeah.
You picked him at 5 the next year, and you just kind of like doubled down. It's like, we're going to get the best player, and we're really going to round this defense out.
The 1 year the Giants won football games and weren't picking high in the draft was a year with 2 good corners. And that just doesn't happen every year. It's very frustrating for me because you know how I feel about corners in the draft. If I don't feel like you're a lock, I don't want to draft you with a 1st round pick. I've made that decision after the Deonte Banks fiasco. Witherspoon was a lock, and I felt Christian Gonzalez was a lock despite him falling to the draft. We loved his tape. I don't really understand why he fell in the draft. It was kind of odd. I think people were just like, I don't love watching this Big 12 tape, and it just felt like maybe the physicality wasn't there for him.
I think people
wasn't there for him. I don't know what the decision making was, but he was phenomenal in the game, by the way, as well, on the other side of the ball, the Patriots, and absolutely robbed me of maybe, I think with all my parlays, no, not kidding. It's like 2-3 grand I lost on that. On the
Whoa! I thought you were
yeah,
saying two or three
if it was
hundred.
Shaheed, I had Shaheed overs like laddered up, and it started at 20 yards. It was such a low total, started at 19 yards. I laddered it all the way up to like 100 plus. If he doesn't make that tip pass, Shaheed gets another 70 there, 65,
Probably,
70.
yeah.
And there was another ball late in the game that Shaheed almost caught. It was devastating. So just he did that for his team though. But the key takeaway I had here, and it pertains to both things. The other side of the ball that we haven't discussed much, because I do want to ask you about this after regarding Drake May, a player we were very high on. And a lot of people have asked me since, my brother, and then a couple people on Twitter, I think, tagged us. And it's like, are you guys still super high on May? Or this like you decided you're kind of done with May? Like this, he looked bad in the playoffs. Is this just what he's going to be? A guy who looks a little scattershot, sees ghosts in big games, that type of thing. Well, I think the key is, and this is something Nate Tice broke down, so I want to give him credit for it, and it pertains to the Giants as well. He did a whole excellent breakdown with Matt Harmon, and I think it was Charles McDonald on their Football 101 show. It's Nate's Football 101 show. He said he thinks the next big thing in the NFL that people are going to be talking about is protections are where the offenses are lagging behind, and not just because of the offensive line ability. He said it's because of the rules in the pass protections. The defenses are way more intelligent and understanding and breaking pass protection rules down. And I looked at a few different film analysis of the game, the quarterback school, and then there was one other from, forgot who, somebody I like who breaks down tape. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to go into this thing thinking Drake May sucks. And I went back and I was just like, the pass protection just got destroyed in this game. And it was more along the lines of what Nate Tice said, where it's just like the Patriots had no solutions for what the Seattle Seahawks were doing. And they're the only option, Nate Tice kind of broke down, the only option May really had was to throw these checkdowns. And that's exactly what Seahawks wanted him to do. So he wasn't taking these quick checkdowns, but it's like, that's what Seattle wants him to do. They're going to rally those checkdowns. You're going to get nothing out of it. And there's really nowhere to go. And when you have such a beat on what the other team is doing from pass protection standpoint, you have no chance to move the ball. The Giants fans know this full and well. Steve Spagnuolo in the 2007 Super Bowl against the all-vaulted greatest offense of all-time Patriots, he broke them down from a pass protection standpoint. He dominated them from that standpoint. He knew their rules. He knew how to break them and beat them, and they had no chance to move the ball for the most part in that game until the very end, where they scored the Moss touchdown on the right outside. But I think what's interesting to me is I tweeted about that, Nick, and I quote tweeted Nate, and I said, you know what? Because I just spent like the last month has been pretty slow on fantasy football front for work for me, Nick. So I've just watched a lot of Giants tape, and I watched a lot of Jackson Dart tape. I rewatched every single snap from Dart at least twice, did some cut-ups, and I quote tweeted Nate, and I was like, honestly, dude, like rewatching a lot of Dart this last month, I feel like Bricillo is one of these rare guys that does understand the pass protection and does understand how to, get this team. Because there were so many snaps I watched where the Giants are picking up stunts and twists and games up front, and where there's a blitz and it's identified by Dart and it's identified by the offensive line and it's picked up really quick. And then Nate quote tweeted that and he was like, yeah, honestly, the Giants are probably the most underrated offensive line in the NFL in this regard. So I just thought that was a big takeaway for me, because Josh McDaniels, the Patriots offensive line coach, like they had a great year, but they got broken in the playoffs, specifically in this game. And the Giants had a really great year in pass protection. And now that offensive line coach, Bricillo, is gone.
And the Patriots offensive line coach, if I'm not mistaken, is
Marone.
It was Doug Marone this year. Yeah. And that's one of the more revered offensive line coaches too.
More run game, though. I think.
A little bit more run game. Yeah, for sure. Used to be the Tennessee Titans head coach. Also, when you have a starting tackle who is just getting beat pretty badly. Will Campbell had
that hurt too. Yeah,
it was rough, right?
Yeah,
and that definitely doesn't help when you have like a Boye Mafe beating you right off the snap, using his long arms and his power, and then you're also pre to post snap not really fully understanding where the hell the blitzes are coming from, because McDonald is scheming it up so damn well. And the point about Bricillo is not lost. It's not. And look, the Giants hired an offensive line coach. We should talk about that if we want to. If we're done talking about the Super Bowl, and that's Mike Bloomgren is going to be the offensive line coach, who was the Cleveland Browns offensive line coach last year, and prior to that, he was the head coach of Rice dating back to 2018. So he has head coaching chops in the at the college ranks, and was an offensive line coach this last year, was run game coordinators through like Stanford and quality control coaches at the Jets back in his earlier years. But I'm not gonna lie, man. And look, I can't sit here and say anything like negative about Bloomgren. I don't know, but losing Bricillo sucks, dude. And like that's some big shoes for this guy to step into.
Yeah, I wanted Jim Leonard badly. You know that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I made that pretty clear. I did not want Matt Nagy as my first choice as OC. So not everything has gone right, but by far and away, Nick, the thing that scares me the most about our coaching cycle, and the thing I'm least confident and least happy in, is what happened on the offensive line with losing Carmen Bricillo. And that was just kind of cemented by rewatching Jackson Dart tape this offseason and seeing the pass protection and seeing the things that Nate Tice was talking about. This was a guy who understood how to get his group of players, which, by the way, is not that talented. I'm just going to be honest, dude. Like, it's a 35-year-old GVR. It's John Runyon Jr. It's John Michael Schmitz. Honestly, to some extent, and I give him credit, he's awesome, but it's Jermaine Illuminor. Like, these aren't, besides Thomas, we don't really have any all-pro type talent on this offense.
You're 100, like, that's not even controversial. You
well,
know,
Jermaine Illuminor might be controversial, and I don't want to disparage his.
Well,
really
like,
done a great job.
He's not an all-pro, though.
Right.
Yeah, he's a good, I think Jermaine Illuminor is a good starting tackle.
And he's done a great job, like, with his, I think he talked about this on Twitter a couple of days ago. He's like, when I came to the Giants, when I came to the NFL, I had to learn a specific pass set. And he's talking about the Will Campbell situation, like, because Will Campbell's just vertical setting the whole game. And it's like, well, you can't vertical set with those arms and at that size and while playing hurt. But, Illuminor's like, I had to learn a specific set. So I want to give him credit, but the rest of that line, and even with him involved, it's like a lot of that was Bricillo, man. And it's just, of all the things that happen with the coaching staff, this is the one thing that scares me the most. Losing Carmen Bricillo, going to what's his name again? I'm blanking on his name.
Mike Bloomgren.
Bloomgren. I'm gonna get that down. I was thinking Holmgren for a second, just going back into my bank of old NFL coaches. But it might work out. Bloomgren might be fine, or it might suck, dude. It honestly might suck. Bricillo was a guy, and they took a risk because what did we hear? John Harbaugh's dad be like, I watched the tape. You got to hire this guy. And then we kind of got reports from Art Stapleton and a few others on the beat. Like, I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to retain Bricillo. But then, Harbaugh's like, damn it, dude. I want to get Monken. And if I get Monken, I got to bring Warhop. And I can't tell Monken, here's your O-line coach, which I don't even necessarily agree with, but that's probably how he viewed it. And then, out of nowhere, Monken gets that freaking Browns job, which was so obnoxious and annoying and stupid. It really is. The Browns, nobody wants to work for them. So they had to hire a 52-year-old guy it's just like insane. And then we lose on Bricillo. But the big thing is, like, I don't know, like, the Bricillo thing could end up ruining our season. I hope that's not the case, but I've seen bad Giants O-lines in the past, and I know it is the case when that happens.
Well, I want to make one thing clear too. Like, look, the talent on the Giants offensive line, like, there is only one all-pro. That's Andrew Thompson. You don't need 5 all-pros to have a good offensive line. And I think Carmen Bricillo's unit proved that this year. Like, the other players on the line, there's no, I'm not trying to besmirch any of them. And I think Jermaine Illuminor is a good starter, but some of them are replaceable level players or just like league average type of players. But my main point is, in the past, the big problem with the Giants offensive line wasn't necessarily just the personnel. Personnel was a massive problem, but it was their lack of communication and the fact that they just were never operating as a unit.
Right.
And even when John Michael Schmitz went down and Austin Schlottman slid in, we didn't see like a downfall at all. Like a lot of those little aspects, the switching of the guards, this player, Aaron Stiney coming in for this game, like, Carmen Bricillo kept the unit intact, despite the fact that we had backups in there. And even though the offensive line from a personnel perspective isn't excellent, it still was more than competent under his leadership. So yeah, man, I don't want to be doom and gloom.
That's exactly right.
But it's a tough loss, I think.
It's not doom and glooming. It's just going into the nuances of what I kind of touched on at the top of what Nate Tice said. Like, there's a lot more to it than who are your 5 offensive linemen. It's a lot about, like, are they communicating? Are you picking up are you predicting are you coaching the protections right to predict what is going to happen from the opposing defense? And are you in tune with what they're doing? And that's what's going to happen with Bloomgren. He's going to have to get this offensive line playing. And I don't even know if who he's going to have on the offensive line, because there's some reports that suggest the Giants are going to let Jermaine Illuminor walk, which we do not support on this podcast. We are 100% in support of spending the money. Do not care about the age. Do not care about the fact that it might be an overpay. I just don't care. The cap is next to meaningless for a franchise that has a quarterback on a rookie deal and hundreds of millions of dollars in cap space in 2026 and 2027 and 2028 that it can dip into now to use to 2026. Also, the cap is going to go up by $100 million from 2022 to 2025, I think it was, or 2023 to 2026, whatever it was. Like, that's a 50% increase, just to give you an idea of how today's dollar is not worth the same as tomorrow's dollar. So you take tomorrow's dollar, use it today. So I just want to pay. I don't want to risk anything there. And who knows what's going to happen at right guard, dude? Is GVR just going to come back and be the starter at 30, whatever he is? right? So there's a lot of uncertainty that this offensive line coach Bloomgren is going to have to inherit. But let's move on to
One more
other
thing
more.
with
Yeah,
Bloomgren too. I mean, I don't know how much to weigh into this situation, but some people like when we go into like PFF statistics, and it's just their grading system for when you're looking at overall teams. The Browns were last in pass blocking last year, and they were like fourth to last in run blocking. So I
yeah.
don't know if that's independent of who the quarterback is, if all that's factored in, if it's a success rate, if it's just how they are how those specific individuals are executing their roles. But these are team stats according to Pro Football Focus's grading system.
And they were injured a bunch, the Browns,
Yeah.
obviously. But it is something to point out that when Bricillo came over to the Giants from the Raiders actually had pretty mid-pack solid grades with a really, really bad personnel group on that Raiders O-line.
Yes.
I mean, outside of Colton Miller, who wasn't even playing like the same Colton Miller he is now. You look at Colton Miller's stats since Bricillo left, his pass block rate, things like that. He's taken a huge jump. Not to say part of that was probably the development with Bricillo, but point being, he's become a better player. At that time, they had really bad talent on their O-line, and they were about mid-pack O-line. So maybe that's worth something. I don't know. I think David brings up a great point before we move on. He says a big thing with the O-line last year was health. They had practically no injuries. And that is true. Like, that's another thing. The Giants were insanely lucky with offensive line health injury on the injury front last year, and it really made a massive difference.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Andrew Thomas was dinged up beginning of the year, end of the year, and which forced Marcus Bowe, and then remember the James Hudson experiment,
Yeah,
and then JMS, but there were no major injuries. And again,
right.
like this is like something that we're going to be talking about for the next month with Jermaine Olubanor, like his consistency and ability to be on the football field, his versatility, his ability. If you need him at right tackle, if you need him at left tackle,
True.
if you need to kick him at right guard, that's an invaluable trait for somebody of his level of competency. And I could see him being priced out of what the Giants might be willing to pay him if the Giants do view Marcus Bowe as a successor.
Yeah, no doubt. But let's move on to other aspects of the Giants coaching staff that's been rounded out that I am a lot more excited about. And I tweeted about this earlier, Nick, and I'll stand by it. I think for me, and overall, I'd say this. We can get to this maybe at the end, but overall, I'd say the Giants have probably put together a coaching staff that I'm more proud of than any coaching staff I can remember from any of our recent head coaching hires, just because overall I think they've added a lot of experience and different minds, and different people have worked with a lot of different great quarterbacks and great coaches in the past that can kind of bring their experience and expertise. It's a well-rounded staff, but the two I might be most excited about, Nick, here are the two that aren't even coordinators. Greg Roman to coordinate the run game, and Brian Callahan to coach the quarterback coach as quarterback coach and passing game coordinator for Jackson Dart. So before I get into why I'm excited about both of those hires, I want to hear your thoughts on either one or both of them, or however you want to do it.
Yeah, no, just for me, it's the experience of them. I mean, Greg Roman has been around the NFL for a hot minute. He's also a Jersey guy. I mean, he started back in like the 90s coaching with like the Panthers and the Texans in the 2000s, the early 2000s. And he spent a lot of time with the Hardballs, was with the Chargers last year as the offensive coordinator, and the Ravens prior to that, was the Bills offensive coordinator in 2015, 2016. And I was not excited for him to be the offensive coordinator because there is a lack of creativity with the passing attack. But that's not his role here. He's the senior offensive assistant and the run game coordinator. And if you know anything about Greg Roman, he knows how to devise a run game when you have a mobile quarterback. So I am excited about that. And as for Callahan, look, Callahan, he was the head coach of the Tennessee Titans the last 2 years, and he got fired midseason last year and ended in there were some people were upset with him because I think if I remember correctly, he got some rule wrong, and then he admitted it to the media that like he messed something up that led to like the Titans possibly losing a football game. So it wasn't a good look for him, but he's a young guy. He's 41 years old, and he's coached with Joe Burrow in the past and Cam Ward this last year. Will Levis, that one didn't work out as much. I believe he also coached Derek Carr as well, if I'm not mistaken. But experience is what I'm looking for. He's not going to be a head coach, right? He's going to be a quarterback's coach. Can he maximize Jackson Dart? And that's going to be, that remains to be seen. I'm not certain that will happen, but I do know at least as somebody who handled a lot more responsibility than he's being bestowed at the moment.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll start with Greg Roman, who to me is my favorite hire of anyone that we've had on our staff. Reason being, you're not hiring him to call offensive plays. If we were hiring him to call offensive plays, he'd probably be my least favorite hire. We're hiring him to coordinate the run game. And the reason why it's my favorite hire is if you look at every stop of the way with Greg Roman, he has coordinated the hell out of every team's run game with different
Crazy.
personnel, different players. And a lot of people, I saw someone be like in my comments, like, isn't he just kind of like you really think he's going to do a good job coordinating the Giants run game? Isn't he kind of just a ground and pound, run up the middle, like put a bunch of heavy personnel on the field guy? I was like, no, like take a look at what he did last year with the Chargers. I thought that was his actually most successful stop from a coaching standpoint, when people are like, oh, it was the first year where his rushing numbers weren't like first, sixth, seventh, third. He's been like top 5 in rushing like every year's career except last year. But I'm like, if you think about it, lose Rashawn Slater, lose Joe Alt, have just an absolute albatross on the interior offensive line, nothing at center, and lose your starting running back. And then the production he was getting out of Vidal in the run game, especially out of shotgun runs, which is something really important because that's what Jackson Dart likes to operate out of, the shotgun. And most of the snaps were out of the shotgun. When you consider his success, given the injuries, given having to go to Vidal, given what he's done from a shotgun running standpoint, from a schematic standpoint, I'm like through the roof with this. Like, yeah, I think Kafka did a great job, Nick, coordinating the run and getting us with the run game going. There were moments, and the early part of the year was Scadaboo, and then at the end, we kind of reinvented himself once they fired Dable. I think we're going to take it to a whole new level in the run game with Greg Roman. I think our run game is going to be one of the most successful we've seen from the Giants in a long, long time.
And it's been a while too. I don't think it was terrible last year. I like the personnel. I am wondering how that personnel might mesh with what Greg Roman can do. And the offensive line coach is also going to have a massive role in this. Another thing about last year with the Chargers, Najee Harris too. He spent the season hurt. Like they signed him for a reason, and then they draft Omarion Hampton. You have your two guys. You have your young, flashy rookie. You have your wily veteran. And they both get hurt, and he's stuck with, and I don't want to say stuck with because that has negative connotations, but then he has to use Kamani Vidal, and he's able to generate some offense behind one of the worst offensive lines that we've seen. So, yeah, I am excited that he's the run game coordinator. I'm curious to see what he could do with Cam Scadaboo, man. A healthy Cam Scadaboo with Greg Roman, that is, and Jackson Dart as the quarterback. That there seems like there could be a lot of creativity there, a lot of physicality at the point of attack. And I'm also wondering now, how might the Giants personnel alter or change on the offensive side of the football with somebody who can coordinate such a diverse run game like Greg Roman? Not that Mike Kafka's wasn't diverse, because I did believe that it was diverse, but it does seem like I'm wondering if the Giants do they want to get like a real fullback, or are they going to rely on a tight end? Like, will we see more 21 personnel? Because we did see that in Baltimore at times. So I'm curious as to that as well.
The only thing with the interesting aspect of that, like, will we see more 21 personnel? It's like, if you're going to use 21 personnel, you're probably not operating it out of the shotgun. And it's like, we haven't seen a lot of Jackson Dart under center. Sometimes we did. We got more of it than people expected. And there were some really good calls under center. I think about the play where against the Broncos, I always think about this play, and I've been watching tape of him lately. Like, play against the Broncos where he's in the shotgun. He sees something he likes pre-snap. He makes a check. He makes a kill. He gets under center. And Daniel Bellinger's wide open for a long touchdown in that game from under center from 12 personnel. So I'm curious to see if you're right, and they do bring in a fullback. I mean, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the Giants to get creative in the run game. They have personnel to do it. Like, I think it was mentioned here by Fagemizer in the comments. He said the Giants were top 5 in rushing yards. Well, a big part of that, a big reason, was Jackson Dart had a lot of rushing yards as quarterback. And I think Jasul says they were 9% pass rate from under center. So they weren't under center a lot, and they didn't throw a lot when they were under center. But part of that was the ability from the quarterback to run. And I don't think that's going to be lost with Greg Roman here. I think we're still going to be able to run the football with the quarterback. Again, like, you can't coach this kid scared. I understand people are scared of the hits. He's taking blah, 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 blah. It's fine. I understand it, but you can't coach him scared. It's part of his skill set. It's a big part of his skill set, in my opinion. He's a different runner than what we've had in the past with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, again, more straight line runner. Jackson Dart, more of an athlete, a lateral athlete type runner. And that's, I like the latter there. I think the latter you can work with more in the run game. I don't need going for a long time in a straight line. I need you to be able to make people miss. And that's something Dart can do.
Yes, he can, and he does a good job setting up those blocks, as we broke down all season. Very good vision, right? He's a smart runner, man. He's smart. He just needs to get down a little bit more, even though I think that's a little bit overblown. But this is a very experienced offensive coaching staff at this point, and we have, Greg Roman, one of the most experienced offensive coordinators. Brian Callahan was a head coach last year. You have John Harbaugh as the CEO type, so it seems like it's rounding into form. I do, not to circle back, but I do wish they kept Carmen Bricillo, but maybe Bloomgren will help or work out. Yeah.
We never know. And we'll see. And they also have the guy from Michigan who's going to help with the offensive line as well. who
Yes.
people are very high on. We'll see what that has. I want to talk a little bit about Callahan. So Callahan front, why that's also one of my favorite hires. It's, people are saying, what do you mean that's one of your favorite hires? He was terrible as a head coach of the Titans. Well, I don't care how he was as a head coach. It means literally nothing to me. He's not head coach of the Giants. We're not hiring to be head coach. We're not hiring him to even call plays. We're hiring him to help coordinate the pass game with Matt Nagy, and also to develop and help to develop Jackson Dart. And why is that something that I find to be true, or find to be a good thing? Because I just listening to it from the source. According to Joe Burrow himself, he said, I wouldn't be the player I am today without Brian Callahan. And that was just part of a really long, an enthusiastic, along and really effusive praise that he has for his former coach. And a lot of people sit there and be like, well, Burrow was already an elite player coming out of LSU. Look at the season he had. That's not untrue, but you have to remember, everyone seems to forget this. It was an elite season, LSU. It was also playing with the college rules, with the hash marks. You have all that space of the field side. That's a completely different game. When you come to the NFL, I don't care how accomplished you are as a quarterback at the college level. When you come to the NFL and you play by the different rules that you have in the NFL versus college, there is a totally different set of rules and everything that you have to go through as a quarterback to process NFL defenses, to get yourself prepared to play NFL defenses. That's what Brian Callahan helped Joe Burrow in doing. That's why Joe Burrow is so effusive in his praise of Brian Callahan. That's why he says, I wouldn't be the player I am today without Brian Callahan as my coach. And so that's just a player. That's just something that makes me excited about him. Now he's going to come and help develop Jackson Dart. That was a really important thing to me, quarterback coach. When you have a young quarterback, especially coming off of Dable and Kafka, who did such a really phenomenal job preparing this kid for his rookie season, I needed to make sure there was somebody in there. And some people say, well, what about with Cam Ward? Did he do a good job preparing Cam Ward? I didn't watch the Titans tape. I don't really know, to be honest with you. I think there are probably a lot of other problems with the Titans. I know their offensive line was an absolute mess to start last year. But yeah, man, I'm definitely excited about him coordinating the coach.
Yeah. I mean, two former head. Yeah, I got you. You got two former head coaches. You got a bunch of former offensive coordinators on this staff. So it's, again, experience would be the first word that comes to my mind, which, previous staffs, it wasn't really that much. Again, we sell ourselves on moves, right? That's just the nature of the business, right? You try to find how, if this does work out, how could this work out? I remember we talked a lot about when Joe Judge hired his staff, how he was focusing on teachers, right? Guys who really taught, and this guy had a degree from Yale and this guy had this degree. And we're like, well, maybe that can translate. It didn't for many reasons, not just because they were teachers, but, for this one, it would be just a complete, I would say a complete antithesis of previous coaching staffs, where you went out and you hired the most accomplished coach the New York Giants have ever hired in John Harbaugh. And then you just surrounded him with guys who have been around the end of I would like to know the collective years of NFL experience just on the offensive side, including Harbaugh, just on the offensive side of the football for the New York Giants. Cause that is a lot of people have been around for a while. Hopefully there's some adaptability there as well. And some guys who can, the egos aren't super big, which is something we've seen with New York Giants coaching staffs in recent memory.
Yeah. And I think part of what has me excited is that was the theme. That was the understanding. Let's get a lot of experience in this coaching staff. And I think that's going to help, like you kind of broke down there. And I think a lot of these hires remain to be, we have to see it play out, obviously. We can get excited all we want about it, but we have to actually win football games for the first time ever. But I do feel pretty confident in this coaching staff, despite a little bit of reservation when it comes to the offensive line. What's going to happen there. That's probably one of my major concerns as we move forward. So let's finish this podcast off by talking a little bit about our opinion of what the Giants' biggest needs are.
Well, we have one more coach too.
Yeah.
Just to go over real quick. Frank Bush, the New York
linebackers coach. Yeah.
Yes. Giants hired Frank Bush, linebackers coach. He's been around, he's 63 years old, been around the league for a little while. Another coach who was with the Tennessee Titans last year. He's a linebackers coach. So he comes over with Denard Wilson. So they know each other very well. Prior to that, he was with the Falcons for 2 seasons and then the Jets prior to that. So he's just longtime linebackers coach. I hope the Giants find him a player that he can really mold. I don't really know much about his teaching ability or his coaching ability per se, but the Giants could certainly use some fresh blood at the linebacker position.
Yeah, I got nothing on him from that standpoint as well. It just is what it is. I'm not going to have everything on somebody like Frank Bush, a linebackers coach. I mean, who really knows with these types of guys? We just hope for the best there, honestly, and hope that he can help.
2 Super Bowls. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, you could say all these things that these guys have done. It's just like the Callahan thing. People are like, but this and this and this. I'm like, all you're telling me is stats about him as a head coach. Why the hell do I care about that? Like, he's not the head coach of the Giants. He's just coming to be a quarterback coach. So if you can give me any information on him as a quarterback's coach, I'm willing to interpret it. I'm willing to listen to it, comprehend it, and maybe change my opinion. But if you're just going to tell me stuff he did as a head coach, it means absolutely nothing to me. Anyway, Nick, before we get to that aspect of the show, which is our opinion on what the biggest needs are heading into free agency, I want to do some super chats now. And remember, for those listening to our live shows, if you want to ask us a question, put it in the form of a super chat and we will answer it anytime. So thank you for those who did donate and did super chats. Let's take a look at those now, Nick.
All right. Gianelli, thank you so much. He said, from one crayon eater to another, I support your message, Nick. Motor 2. That is a reference to the Marine Corps. We eat crayons over there, and I'm guessing my homie was in Motor T. All right, well, this is 03 land over here, but I don't discriminate, man. I really do appreciate you, my homie. Jason Benjamin.
Nick went after it on in a little bit, and I thought, it was good to see you. You never really, I don't want to say, this is going to sound weird. I think at times your personality or how I know you is a little bit more reserved on social media. And I think it's good sometimes to step into, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this without offending anyone or saying something that I don't. Dude, I think it's good to sometimes be yourself. I'll just say that. And maybe it was controversial to some people, but in today's world, everything's controversial, Nick. I took some of the heat off you by putting my own controversy on Twitter this morning or last night when I replied to a tweet that's now getting blown up by people on Twitter, which is, I stand by it. Section 80 is the best work by Kendrick Lamar. It's by far the best. Good, Good Kid, Mad City is very good. And I understand people think it's the best of all time by Kendrick Lamar. I think it's number 2. I think Section 80 is by far and away his best work. And when you just think about what I'm looking for, it's just an opinion music, but I'm looking for 90s level flow, 90s level bars. The best you can get is Section 80. I listen to that all the time. So I took a little
that's an album, Section 80?
It was a mixtape, but it's a mixtape, but to me, I'll just call it an album. I think it's his best work. Yeah.
Are there other people who feel that way as well?
Well, I tweeted it and I got destroyed by people for this.
Okay.
Some people agreed with me, but
so I have a good friend who's really into like breaking down music, and he has an excellent YouTube channel. His name's Anthony Aiken. If anybody wants to go check him out, he does a great job. But he like, one of his main things that he breaks down is Kendrick Lamar. So I'm going to run this past.
Tell him my take that Section 80 is the best Kendrick.
And I could already see, like, I don't know how he would react to that, but like, if he has a strong opinion against it, I could already see like,
just if he comes back on that, be like, just say these 3, just say a few things. Just say Poor Man's Dream, just say Keisha's Song, and you can just say those 2 songs.
I'm going to show him this probably.
Yeah, just show him.
Jason,
and there's more. The entire mixtape is unbelievable. It's hit after hit after hit. But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, Jason, Nelly, I'll do that here in a second. I will. Jason Benjamin 7754. Thank you so much. Says, that's why I'm skeptical trading Kayvon Thibodeau. Seattle ran a 9-man defensive line in the Super Bowl. He's still young. We are cap healthy. He's a great DE3 in my opinion. Yeah, I very much agree. A lot of it would depend on how the Giants internally feel about what Kayvon might demand, what Kayvon might earn, because Kayvon is going to do it. Like, he's going to get what's for Kayvon, as he is completely entitled to do and as he should do 100%. But if the Giants have a great offer for him, I think you do at least entertain it at this point. But generally speaking, Jason, if that great offer is not there, then I'm right there with you. And I do believe the ceiling is still high for Kayvon Thibodeau, and he has not quite reached that yet.
So I think we just kind of go through this every single year, Nick, where we look at the Super Bowl, we look at who won or a team that made it, and it kind of seems like a similar theme brings a similar theme develops every time. It's these teams that have these deep pass rushes, these deep trench units that can rotate, like the Eagles 2 years ago, the Seahawks this past year. And with that in mind, if you're playing for just next year, which is kind of how I tend to look at things, for better or worse as an analyst and a fan, to me, it makes no sense to trade Kayvon Thibodeau. Really, you're going to get probably a 3rd-round pick if you're lucky at this point after an injured season, maybe worse. But then the other side of the coin, which I think has its validity, which is if the Giants don't plan to re-sign Kayvon Thibodeau, why not get the 3rd-round pick right now and then use that future money you were going to spend on a Kayvon Thibodeau for a Quay Walker in free agency or for a Devin Lloyd or something like that in free agency, right? So that's the flip side of the coin, which is not a bad argument by any means. I just think I'm playing for now. I think this team has a better chance than people realize at being a really good team next year if things break right. And I know it's stupid to say, it just seems always wrong, but I just feel that way with Harbaugh and the talent they have on the roster currently, plus what they can do in free agency in the draft. So with that in mind, I don't want to trade Kayvon Thibodeau. I know he can be very valuable for next season.
Yes, I agree. Javier, thank you so much. Bud says, thanks for the content, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you for donating, Javier.
We appreciate you, man. Jason also says, this is our best coaching staff potentially since Coughlin, Gilbride, Spags, 2007 to 2009. With a young roster, this veteran coaching staff is good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's probably that's how it's going to be viewed as the best coaching staff since the Coughlin years. We'll see. It remains to be seen, but I think what they've done puts them in a good position to be a well-rounded and maybe their best coaching staff since then.
Andrew, thank you so much, says the old man is dropping serious paper on staff.
Yeah, he is spending a lot for his coaching staff. He's hiring a lot of people who require a lot of money. Great. You know why? It doesn't count against the salary cap. Keep spending. I hope this is the case for the Giants for the rest of my life, where we just have owners who are like, spend whatever you want on your coaching staff.
Yeah. I'll trade medium Pepsis for this kind of coaching staff.
Now, you know what? Medium Pepsis, it's coming full circle because he only gave out a medium Pepsi. Imagine if he gave out larges. We might not have the money right now to spend on this coaching staff. Okay, he gave out a large Pepsi and a burger. We might have not had the money now to spend on this coaching staff. So you know what? Thank him for giving out the free medium Pepsi.
We're slightly getting off the rails here for a second, but Dan, why don't you give some of your food takes on MetLife Stadium?
God, MetLife Stadium is just absolute dumpster fire from a food standpoint. What really sucks about it is when it first debuted, Nick, for a brief year, maybe it was a 1 to 3 year period, they actually upgraded their food. They had like these buffalo chicken mac and cheese that me and my brother would get that I love, like these few food stops that were like really actually good. They were starting to go like the Citi Field route. Like if you go to Citi Field, you have 17 options that are amazing from a food standpoint. Literally, you are endless. You can eat anything, pastrami, whatever you want at Citi Field. You go to the Yankee Stadium, probably. I haven't been there in a while, but you can eat whatever you want. I bet you, and then it's not as good as Citi, but it's probably still 10 to 15 options. You go to MetLife now, they got rid of all that. They went in that direction for a brief period of time, and then they rolled it back. Last time I was at MetLife, my brother for the Chiefs game last year, we walked outside. We didn't eat. We were both doing stuff before during the day. I was working, and we were probably recording this podcast or something, and he was working. So we got to the stadium late. We just had time for beers as a tailgate. We had like 4, 5, 6 beers each, chucked them and went in, and we're hungry. And like I walk outside of my we're up in the 300s. What are my options? The sausage and peppers thing. I could go to that big thing that has like the shit chicken tenders and the crappy burgers and the fries. And that was like it, dude. It was the sausage and pepper station, the crappy burgers and fries and chicken tender station. And there was nothing else there. It was unbelievable. Like, how do you roll it back to that point? And if you're going to go that shit route where you're just offering like that kind of crap, at least do it the Falcons way. The Falcons have done it right. Yeah, they're offering crap food, but they charge like $2 for a pizza, $1 for a burger. Like they really roll back the pricing. Not that should be a big
pumping crowd noise.
And they're pumping crowd noise, which we don't get because we're outsourced. I don't even care about the pricing aspect of this. I'm going to walk that part back. I'm just going to say, you need to go in the direction of Citi Field, okay? I'll pay $26 for a fucking pastrami sandwich like I do at Citi Field because it's damn good when I do it. Or I get a patty of the free burger instead of this crap burger that you put out there. So you know what? It's really disgraced. The food needs to be upgraded, and I stand by that.
I absolutely love when you talk about the food.
It's so bad.
Dude, you said you had bad food takes. I think your food takes are good. I think
people tell me they're bad. I think they're good, but
I think they're good too.
About myself, that's a very egotistical thing to say.
I mean, sure, but like I'm not you, and I look at you, and I text you, and I'm like, yo, dude, like, give me a spot. Like, what should
I do give you great spots,
and you give me great spots, bro. I've been to what is Sal? What's the place? The Astoria place?
Oh, Sal Chris and Anthony's Deli.
Yeah, Sal Chris. I go.
You ever try that? You didn't try the bomb, did you?
I did.
Oh
yeah,
my god, you ate that thing, Nick?
Would
you eat that over a 17-day span?
Yeah, no, it was like a
one bite a day.
It was like a 4-day span. It was
that thing is so big.
I know.
I think I used to have that. I remember I used to get that when I lived in Astoria for the draft. And I think it was during the time when the draft I was going to say it was the time. Remember back, and this is way back, when the draft was started, day 2 started Saturday at 12 noon. That was genuinely awesome. You would just sit there. Friday was off, and then Saturday would start day 2, and you would just rip through like 6-7 hours of draft. And I would have that sandwich, but I think it was actually after that, probably because I was living in Astoria late. But yeah, man, that was a great place. But the other place, Rosario's, is the best spot I think I've given you in Astoria. Would you agree?
I do like Rosario's. Yes.
You've had their pizza?
I have not had the pizza. I haven't had any pizza.
Chicken cutlet sandwich?
I had the chicken cutlet sandwich.
Okay, Rosario's pizza is actually really, really good. I know you're not a pizza guy, but
no, I love pizza. I mean, I do love pizza. I just
you don't eat it.
Uh, I like to try every now and again, right? Doing different dietary habits, but I when I want pizza, like I want to get like a really good slice of pizza, right? And
Yeah.
you're selling me on this one, I'm gonna do it. There's a
Rosario's is a
bunch like
really good
down
slice
there.
of pizza. I
Yeah.
would say Rosario it's different, but I would definitely say it's a really good slice of pizza, and the ramen place I stand by, I forgot the name of it, and right on 31st, or no, is it on Ditmar? No, it's on 31st, I
Ah,
think.
Nelly
Up
brings. Oh,
1st.
so yeah,
Yeah.
Nelly brings up Defontes. I've heard a lot about Defontes out in Brooklyn.
Fontes is great, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that place is all. I got to go to Brooklyn, man. That place I hear is a lot of fun.
I think
This
Le
was a,
Industry is the best pizza in Brooklyn. Yeah,
what's it called?
Le Industry.
La Industry.
Now it's popular, and they opened another one in Manhattan, I think, but
Okay, okay, yeah, I'm unfamiliar. Analysis, 1957. Thank you so much. Said pick three players that will benefit most by the. Ooh, I like this question. By the coaching changes, which unit will show the most improvement? Number one free agent you want to sign. Okay, so let me pull up a list of the free agents here.
you know, by the way, Nick, I'm gonna make an executive decision. We're gonna do the needs thing on another show, and we're just gonna
Yeah,
change the title after this. So that
yeah,
we'll figure that out, and you can change it for the Spotify.
I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no,
this is
no,
already long enough for
I
this.
agree, and I'm having a great time just chopping,
Yeah,
shooting the breeze
exactly.
with
This is
people
what
and
the
stuff
live
like that.
should be.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so three players that would benefit most from the coaching changes. Tyler Nubin is the first person that comes to my mind.
Okay,
Deontay Banks is the second. Actually, Deontay Banks is probably the first. Tyler Nubin. I wonder if they're all going to be defensive.
this is such a good question analysis. This is the best. These
Yeah.
are the type of questions I love.
Thank you, analysis. Yes,
I love all
and
questions and
yeah,
donations, by the way, but I like this one
yes.
too.
Oh, what's so I'm trying to think of the third. I think Theo in a Matt Nagy offense. The thing about Theo is like Theo was a significant part of the past offenses too. But I think like if Theo Johnson can catch the football, I think Theo Johnson could be like a top 5 tight end in the league just because of his usage.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? If he can catch the damn ball and just, you know what? No, I'll say this. If he could be more reliable in
yeah,
every phase that's not the blocking, because he's got the blocking down. And I
right.
absolutely love it. You guys know how much I love a blocking tight end. So I do have a lot of respect for Theo when it comes to that. But he's just slow out of his breaks. He's kind of lumbering. He's a little awkward as a route runner, and he drops way too many footballs. But if he can just secure those things down, I think he can be one of those fantasy names. And I said this last year, and it kind of burned me in the backside. But I really do think in a Matt Nagy offense, he's going to be used, man. He's going to have a freaking role. So Theo would be my third.
It's a great question, and I got to think about this. So I'll start. And so yours were Newman, Banks, and Theo,
Yes.
correct? I'll start by saying the easy one for me is Banks. And I know it's crazy that both Nick and I said Deontay Banks when it's possible you could look at it from the outsider's perspective and be like, what have we seen on tape, and not just on tape, but in the locker room, et cetera, that says he should even be on the roster next year? And that's not a terrible point by you. I just have faith and hope that this kid wants to be an NFL player, and this is his last chance. Like he's going to have a clean slate. It's a new coaching staff. Everyone gets a clean slate. That has to be going through his mind. I have a clean slate. I have a coordinator who's going to use me in press man more and is going to put me on the line of scrimmage where I want to be up against those wide receivers. I can reinvest. I can change my narrative. That's what I hope is the case with Deontay Banks. And I just believe it will be, honestly. So he's number one that comes to mind. And maybe that will be ill-advised by us, Nick. We may look back on this and really regret that take. So that's the first one for me. I would love to say Newman, but I'm not going to, man, because the Newman stuff is a little frustrating right now. I hope he was just playing hurt. I don't know what it was. He just didn't look good on tape, man. He didn't look up to his speed just hasn't translated yet from Minnesota at the Big Ten to the NFL, and it's very scary to me. I'm not willing to put him there yet. I'd be more willing to say Holland right now than I am Newman from that standpoint. But I'm not going to put him as my second either. So one, Banks for sure. I'm not going to go Dart. I think that is a chance we could, I don't think he can get better for Dart than Dable, to be honest, and Kafka. We'll see if I'm wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong, obviously. But man, they did a good job with him as a rookie. I'm going to say Scadaboo as my second, man. Scadaboo with Greg Roman. That's exciting to me. Like, I don't know what we'll see yet from that standpoint, but I feel like we could see a really good fit with Cam Scadaboo and Roman. Everything I've heard from, right, by the way, Nick, on the Scadaboo front is he's doing a great job in his recovery. Obviously, we haven't heard the same optimism when it comes to Malik Neighbors' recovery right now, but for the Scadaboo point, he's recovering fast and he's expected to be there for the start of OTAs. So I don't have any reason to believe he won't. So that's one. It's Banks one, Scadaboo two. The third for me, I'm not going to say, I don't really feel like anyone on the offense. Theo's the one that I would consider, but you called him. The third I'm going to say is Abdul Carter.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you could say the Bowling Giants versus the Bowen Giants. Maybe it's not as big of an upgrade from the Bowling Giants, but most of the season we got the Bowen Giants last year. So we mostly got to watch Abdul Carter with Shane Bowen. Denard Wilson is not Shane Bowen, thank God. So yeah, I'll go with those three. And then number one free agent you want to sign.
Well, first, which unit will show the most improvement?
Oh,
I'm going to say the safeties. And
I hope you're right.
I don't think the safeties are like, I don't think they were terrible. They weren't difference makers. They never really made plays. They were scrambling a lot because the defense was not in a good spot from a coaching perspective, from a personnel perspective. But yeah, I think Denard Wilson, I mean, if there's anything, I mean, he knows defensive backs. That's what he was. So I'm going to go with that.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point with that in that regard as well. Is it, I'll go corners. I'll go with the corners. I just think it's so much better as a corner when you're taking away those free access plays and you're forcing offenses to really make more throws, more difficult throws. So I'll go with the corners.
All right. So for the number one free agent you want to sign.
Yeah. Who's that for you?
I think the first name we're going to say is not it, but Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd did go through my mind, and I was like, I like the idea of that. That's probably going to cost like $20 million a year. And I think you can get Leo Chanel for much cheaper. And I think he is going to fill a very valuable role for you. And I think he could be had at a value. So I'm going to say Leo Chanel.
So yeah, this is a tough question because is it like the number one free agent we want to sign from a value standpoint or like just overall? If it's just overall, it's Devin Lloyd. If I just don't have to worry about the money, if it's just who's the best player the Giants can add. But I think when you factor in what you've said, Nick, Leo Chanel would probably be my answer as well. If I'm trying to look for somebody else, just to not copy you, it would be interior defensive lineman. The problem is, like, I was looking through this before the show, like DJ Reader comes to mind for me, for example. I know it didn't go as well as it hoped with the Lions. He was injured. That was a big problem, but he's still just 31 years old. And he was a dominant interior defensive player before he saw with the Bengals, before he went to Detroit. I feel like they can maybe get him on a cheap deal or cheaper deal on a bargain rate. And I feel like DJ Reader is a great guy to put in the middle of this defense right now. So I would say Leo Chanel, DJ Reader come to mind as just value type plays in free agency for them. That would be 1 and 2 for me.
It does suck that it seems like he's on the back end of his career. Did he play with Dex at Clemson? Like, I wonder if they played together. Because, I mean, he entered the draft in 2016, Dex 2019. So I'm wondering if they were on campus maybe. But that would be, I don't know if that carries any weight at all. But
yeah,
it's an interesting connection, I guess.
And like, this is a funny one, but I've been asking the Giants to sign this guy for like 15 years. It feels like really just like the last 5. Whoever gets him seems to do great with him. And he was, again, amazing last year, by the way. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in Calais Campbell, dude. I really wouldn't. He's awesome. I know he's so old. I don't care. Like, I think that, like, what is it? 18. I think he's played 18 seasons in the NFL, Calais Campbell. And yet he was graded 84.4 by PFF. I don't care about the grade. I watched him. He was awesome on tape again. He's freaking 6'6". He's so long, so powerful at the point of contact. He's basically exactly what the Giants need on this defense. Yeah. So, like, I know he's old and this may not be the team he wants to go to, but he signed with the Cardinals last year. It's not like he's hunting teams that are good and he can win a Super Bowl with. I wouldn't mind bringing in Calais Campbell. F it. He's still amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he's played with John Harbaugh like for 3 seasons. He was
True.
So, I mean, and that seemed like, and I remember when they signed him, they're like, oh, this old guy. That was like 7 years ago. Like, this dude's 39 years old.
In the NFL. You want to know why? Because he's a rare breed. No one has his length at length and strength combination. You just can't find it. You're not gonna be able to draft a Calais Campbell.
No, it's very rare. He's very long. I'm trying to think of like how, like, Chris Canty wasn't as tall as he was, but I know
Canty's a good type comp.
Canty is like the comp that I think of, but like Calais and Canty, I have a lot of respect for, but like Calais Campbell is like the way he sinks his ass to get low and then lock out and then control the point of attack.
6'6". Like,
dude, I think he's even bigger than that, man. Like he
might be 6'7".
He's big, dude. And the thing is, like, he's big, but he's not stiff, you know?
No.
Like, that's the thing. He could sink the ass, like I say.
Is he now? He's played 18 seasons. How old? He's 39 years old. I mean,
he'll be 40 at the start of the season.
He'll be 40, but like, you watch his tape last year in the Cardinals and he was amazing. And he's basically exactly what we need imagine putting that on our defense right now in our run game.
And he'd only have to play like 500 snaps. Like the Giants could be like monitor his snap. I think that would be excellent. That's a nice one. And it would probably be like what? Like
not much.
8.
It won't
You think it would
cost a
be?
lot.
You think it would be 8 million? You think, or you think it would be less? Like I don't think
Well, he signed a 1-year, $6 million
it
deal
was
with the
6. Okay.
Cardinals, so
Okay.
he's
So
not
I
going
have
to
to
sign for
imagine it'll be
more.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be like $4 or $5 million. It's like the easiest one in the book. I mean, this one we're not going to do, but this is a player that I just want to give you a shout out for that I think would be great. We're not going to do it because we spent so much on this position, but this is a player that you've always loved. Cameron Curl is a free agent again.
So good.
He'd be
He's so
awesome
good.
on this Giants defense, but
Do
we
you
can't do it. We did it with the Holland. The Holland thing kind of did us in there.
you know what I love about like what you and I do, and that we've been
Yeah.
doing this together for so long, Dan? Like I remember like Cameron. I didn't know much about Cameron Curl when he went into that draft. I think he was like a 7th round pick by Washington. And I remember the first game the Giants played against Washington when he was a rookie. I was like, this guy's gonna be a problem. I was like, this guy is.
I remember you breaking down the tape on him.
Gonna be a problem for us, man. And he beat the crap out of the Giants every time. He's such an underrated football player. I love watching.
Very underrated football player. Another guy. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I love watching like safeties who just like making it, especially ones who like slip through the cracks and end up being 7th round picks and just slide right into a role perfectly.
Here's another player I'll throw out there that's just intrigued me throughout probably the last 4 months. Just an upside type play. I wouldn't mind if the Giants said, F it, let's sign Elijah Vera Tucker and see if we can get the healthy years out of him, right? I mean, if he's healthy, we just got basically like we just upgraded the fuck out of guard out of nowhere for nothing because he's been injured.
And wouldn't that be the most New York Jet thing ever? Like,
if he was
you get this great draft pick who just can't stay healthy, and like every time he's out there, he's great, but it's so rare that he does. And then he stays in his home and goes to another team.
Yeah, I know.
The most New York Jet thing ever, dude.
I know it is crazy if that's the case. I just think there's like a lot of upside for the Giants to explore that possibility.
What is he? 27, 28 years old?
He's got to be young. Let me see. I mean, this is
it's multiple devastating knee injuries.
26. Yeah, he's had a ton of injuries. You're taking a huge risk, but like not really from a price standpoint. All right, let's move on to a few more questions and we'll wrap.
Yeah, so I think this is the last. No, I think we have 2 more. Janelli circled back, my fellow devil dog. He says, no worries, Nick. Us noblemen and motor T don't discriminate against 03s either. Yeah, man. Good old military talk, man. Yeah, no, I appreciate
you have no idea, man. I know nothing about the military. And I used to just have this weird brain function where like I would by mistake be talking to Nick about his stuff. And I don't know why. It's not like I know the difference, but like I would just say the word army instead of military, but trying to use the word military to like ask him about, oh, did you do this in the military or did you do that in the military? But just did you do that in the army? Every single time Nick would correct me and just be so offended. And he's not disparaging the army people. He respects the army people too. Yeah, no, when you're a Marine, let's just be honest. There's a little bit of an air of superiority over the army people. If you're going to be honest with the situation, Nick, all due respect, you deserve that air of superiority, but there is a little bit of we're better than the army.
I mean, sure, like that little like banter back and forth between like, but it's more so like a correction thing too, right? Like,
I don't know.
More so, no, but it is more so like the Army is a completely different institution than the United States Marine Corps, and there's I guess a level of pride that like people have, and like, oh no, I was this and I was that, and there's just a big distinction. You know, but yeah, I get it. The banter between the armed forces is always it's always fun, I guess.
It was just an immediate stop of the conversation. Did you just say the word army? Did you just say the word army? It's the military. I wasn't part of the army.
It's the Marines.
No,
you're kind of getting it wrong right now too. I didn't want to say.
No, but I could say. Oh, I can't even say the military to describe.
No. You could say the military. The military is the umbrella term that the Army and the Marines all fall under. But like, if you're talking about like my specific experience, I'm not going to be like, and you're asking me about
military.
Yeah. You're probably going to say you're going to specify what part that you were in.
Right.
Jason, thank you so much. Tariq,
what do you think of the Coast Guard? One of my I grew up with my parents both worked when I was a kid, and we had a nanny from England come over. Colleen, shout out Colleen, she's the best. She married a Coast Guard, John. Shout out John Motorelli. And I was just curious, what are your thoughts on the Coast Guard?
I don't really have any thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coast Guard seemed like a cool job to me. Like he was stationed in San Diego for a while. Like I just feel like I'd like to be stationed in San Diego. Like
yeah,
if I was going to do one of them, I think I'd do Coast Guard.
There's a Marine Corps base in San Diego, Camp Pendleton.
Okay, so you could do it as a Marines are too tough for me. I'm a wimp, Nick. I could never do the Marines, but Coast Guard, I feel like I could do. If I had to do one, I'd do the Coast Guard.
Sipping Mai Tai on a boat.
I just feel like Coast Guard's where it's at, man.
I like this show. Jason, thank you so much. Tariq Woolen, Leo Chanel, Calais Campbell for me.
Yeah, that'd be a nice haul. No, I don't want Tariq Woolen, so I'm gonna.
He's probably just gonna make a lot, right?
I really don't want Tariq Woolen at all.
Yeah.
So let me just step that back. We're not going to, I highly doubt the Giants sign a big corner after the Adebo thing last year anyway.
Yeah, same.
And he will cost a lot.
Hey,
But
Dan,
I actually got to be honest with you, Jason Benjamin, I would be really disappointed if we spend a lot of our cap space on Tariq Woolen.
Alrighty. And then I think this is our last super from Analysis. Thank you so much. Analysis says NFL is actually considering allowing video replay to throw a flag in obvious cases, scenarios when refs don't throw a flag. Thought.
My thought is I love it, but then my other thought is they kind of tried this already with the PI thing, and it was a miserable failure. So, like, while I love this on the surface, and I think it should be right, and it should make the game a lot better, we kind of tried it that one year with the PI thing, and it was horrible.
It slowed the game down and everything.
No, remember, it was that one year they were like, oh, we can now review PIs, I think it was.
Yeah. They've been trying a lot of, like, stuff. Like
yeah.
I
mean, something needs to be done, honestly. And I kind of agree with what Brady was saying. Was it Brady? One of these, like, former players was saying, like, he hates the roughing the passer stuff. It's like, you know, I hate how that kind of changes a lot of games too when they throw the flag too, depending. It's kind of, you know, subjective as to when they want to throw it.
Yeah, the roughing the passer stuff. Again, it's a war on defensive football, guys. A war on defensive football, and I'm not here for it. You know, like it sucks.
Flacco. Josh Souls, right?
Oh, it was Flacco. Well, yeah. Whether it's Flacco or Brady, but even more so Brady. It's like Brady was in the NFL when, like, you were getting decapitated.
Yeah.
Flacco was for a little bit, and like around the early 20 teens, the NFL started nixing that. But that, I believe, is our last super chat, my friend.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody listening to today's live show. We will do as well either today or tomorrow or at some point our thoughts on the Giants' biggest needs heading into free agency. We have time. Obviously, it's a month away. So we will do that. For those who saw that title today, I apologize for not doing it today. We will eventually get to it. It won't be the title on the podcast, so no worries for that. We won't be misleading you. Thank you so much for joining the show. Thank you so much for a lively comment section. Really appreciate reading through the comments. Thank you for the super chats. If you want to help support the show and help us grow the show, please like and subscribe. So you can subscribe on Spotify and iTunes. Leave a review if you haven't already. If you can leave us just a quick 5-star review, just click 5 stars and say one thing or not in the comments. That really helps us grow the show. As far as YouTube goes, you can help us grow the show by commenting live in the shows, but then after the show as well. If you're watching this after, just leave a comment and hit the like button. That will really help us. Hit the hype button. We want to try to get us across the algorithm a lot heading into free agency and draft season. That's where we really think we can thrive. I want to make sure this channel is buzzing for those things and exposing our content to new people. So thank you so much for supporting our show. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.